Welcome to the Wheatfield. It's another week. It's Valentine's week. And even though I'm not really talking about love and all the Valentine's-y things, I was scheduled to talk about trials and tribulations that seem to find their way to us at harvest time when we're living like in our greatest life, all the crazy things that can get thrown at us. But I decided to punt on that and at least not talk about that during the week of love. And instead, I'm going to talk about something that really has absolutely nothing to do with love, but does have to do with the harvest season. When I was first getting ready to teach this, I had a friend of mine say, hey, I feel like I'm supposed to tell you this. This was over a year and a half ago. You have to teach on the aspect of gleaning when you teach about wheat. And I was like, okay. So I started and started looking into it. And so I'm going to share that with you all. I do have, a Valentine's-y love shirt on. So there we go. I can check box that, teaching about love and celebrating Valentine's during Valentine's week. What I love about teaching about this particular concept is it can tie into Valentine's Day because probably the most famous verse that has to do with this concept I'm teaching, gleaning, in the Bible is about right in the middle of a beautiful love story between Ruth and Boaz. And I talked a little bit about it yesterday on Instagram, just in the feed, that if you, I'm not really going into their love story too much, but if you have a chance to go read about it to get some context, that's good. If not, check it out after this Wheatfield Wednesday. It's in Ruth chapters 1 and 2. I think the story is important because in the Bible, there's only 5 women who are listed in the genealogy of Jesus. And Ruth is one of them. And she got her own book in the Bible. So in my opinion, she's pretty important. So here's the deal. For the sake of introducing you to the concept of gleaning, I'm just going to read a couple verses from her and Boaz's story. It's in Ruth chapter 2, starting in verse 8. So Boaz said to Ruth, "My daughter, listen to me. Don't go and glean in any other field, and don't go away from here. Stay here with the women who work for me. Watch the field where the men are harvesting and follow along after the women. I have told the men not to lay a hand on you, and whenever you are thirsty, go and get a drink from the water jars the men have filled." At this, she bowed down with her face to the ground. She asked him, "Why have I found such favor in your eyes that you notice me, a foreigner?" So what the heck is gleaning? In biblical times, this is what gleaning was. It was the act of walking around a field after the farmers, usually the men in this context, had harvested the field and picking up leftovers that they didn't get. Or if something hit the ground, they were instructed to not pick it up. The farmers weren't allowed to pick it up. So they were the leftovers, the dirty crops that no one wanted. Women would glean them and use them for food. Obviously, we use this term now, glean, as like getting bits and pieces of information. You know what I mean? Like as we need it. But in the Bible, gleaning was actually legally enforced, okay? So not everyone could go and just glean in someone's field and take their leftovers. Only 3 distinct groups could do this. The travelers, so if you're in a different city and you needed something to eat, you could glean from other fields. The extremely poor and the widows. That was it. Leviticus 19:9 and 10 says, "When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your field right up to its edge. Neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest. You shall not strip your vineyard bare, neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God." So in the Old Testament, this shows what gleaning was. And in a lot of Christian kingdoms, it was literally enforced. Like farmers were not allowed to pick everything out of their field that they had worked so hard to grow. Can you even believe that? So here's the tie-ins. There's 2 different people I'm going to be talking to about gleaning. Maybe it resonates with one of you. Part 1. Maybe at some point in your life, you've had to glean. Maybe you were the outsider. Maybe you were the poor in some way, shape, or form. Maybe you were in a bad relationship. Maybe you were physically poor growing up or emotionally poor due to the household that you grew up in. Maybe there was something said to you or not said to you that over time defined you. And in your mind, it is keeping you as a traveling sojourner in a foreign land, an outsider, not quite accepted. not quite whole. Maybe you are pursuing a dream or supporting someone who's pursuing a dream that has left you feeling broken and less than in some way. And you continually glean. You accept and willingly take all the leftover harvest. And you've done so for so long that you actually believe it's the full harvest, and you actually believe that you are not ever meant to have your own field like those farmers. Listen, there is no abundance in the leftovers. There is this whole rest of a field for you, true harvest that God has designed for you. See yourself in that part of the field. To the person that feels broken, you're not broken. Stop looking at yourself as broken. God, according to Ephesians 3:20, which we know, I love that verse, that talks about he's able to do exceedingly abundantly more beyond that we could ever ask. I love that verse. And I hope we can all understand that the truth that holds. And if you've been a gleaner for your whole life, that you would change your mindset and understand that God really does want you to be a farmer with that field, full field of harvest. You do not have to live in the leftovers anymore. Second group of people I'm going to talk to. Look at the idea of gleaning from the farmer. Can you imagine that he was told that he needed to do this, and later he was legally enforced that he had to do this? He had to leave perfectly good harvest out there on his field. Okay? We know how hard it is to grow a harvest. We've talked about the waiting seasons and the plowing and the sowing, and you finally get your harvest that you and God have grown, and you have to leave some out there for people to come and get? Are you kidding me? I wonder what most farmers' attitudes were after they passed the perfectly untouched harvest on their way out of the field after they'd gotten most of it, and just walking away disgusted that they were having to leave that out there for other people, the outer edges. So a question for part 2 of people, if this one resonates with you on gleaning: what corners of your field or extra margins could you create or share with a great attitude with others in some way, shape, or form? Our plates are full. Our time is precious, but is there someone or some group or something we could be sharing our harvest more, sharing our harvest with more than we already are? Think about that. Okay, so during this week of love, show yourself some love. Move on over from the edges of leftovers to the full harvest mindset, and believe that you have a God that loves you and wants to do exceedingly abundantly more. And if you have an abundance to give, do so with the right attitude this week. Give the extra love away, show yourself some extra love, and have the best week ever. I hope this made sense. It's a strange concept, but maybe it resonated with someone. I'll see you next week. Don't miss the week.